Hello, everyone. It is so good to see you. I am happy to be here. It is such a great start to the week and really glad to see you. So before we get too far down the road, go ahead and say where you are from and what line of work you are in, what line of work you're maybe hoping to scale. If you've got a business idea, you're not in quite a business yet, go ahead and write that in there as well. Hello, Drea. Good to see you. Drea. I'm going to say with Drea, not Drea. I can see it going both ways. Okay. It's good to see you. Thank you for being here, Ms. Jackson. Jay, hello. All right. Very good. We are going to get right to it. You are in the business growth multiplier. So if you are looking for something else, if you leave, you will not break my heart. I had both of my feelings removed in the Marine Corps, and those were pretty dead feelings to begin with because I grew up in a Scottish and Italian household. So if you know, you know. All right. It is good to see you. Hello, Mohammed. Good to see you. Glad to see you back. Carlos, hello again. I don't see some familiar names on here. All right. Well, we're going to get right to it. This is honestly my capstone sort of seminar. I really enjoy doing this one because there's a lot of people who are out there who want to scale their businesses and want to grow their businesses. And that's many times when they're coming to me as a life and business strategist. I'm helping them with their strategy. I'm helping them to put a business together that is going to deliver their ideal life for them. So we're going to get started here in just a hot second. It's good to see you. Oh, hello, Michelle. I'm glad you could join us. Let's see here. I'm not sure. Why aren't you in the room? Okay. All right. Well, you're in. So I'm glad you could be here. All right. So just a couple real quick things. And I just want to make sure that first and foremost, you are going to get a replay of this. So if you have to hop out, first of all, know that we're going to talk about you and it's not going to be flattering. No, I'm just kidding. No, if you have to go out, I get it. Listen, especially if you're in a business and you're in a business owner and you have to hop off the call, I totally get it. People wander in and out of the call all the time. So I don't take it personally. I know if you've got to go, you got to go. This is, so this call, first and foremost, we are going to give you a replay. I just want to make sure that you know that. Secondly, I'm going to ask you not to multitask. I know this is going to be, there's going to be a lot of information here, and I just don't want you to miss some really good nuggets that could really change things for you. And if you're multitasking as best you can, I know, if you've got a business to run, some of you are at work and you're taking your lunch hour here doing this. I get that. I just want to make sure that you're not trying to watch TikTok videos and return emails and cook dinner and do all the things while you're also watching this. So try your very best to stay focused in on this because I just don't want you to miss anything, right? I just think too, is that this is also about training your brain not to try to multitask. Because if you think you're good at multitasking, I'm letting you know there are plenty of data out there that show that multitasking is a myth. You just can't be as effective unless you're really focusing. So we're training our brains to be more focused and really be much more effective. So Drea, you said you are from Columbus. I'm going to go with, that is Mississippi, MS. I think that's Mississippi. You'd think I'd know this by now. I've been in the United States my entire life. Let's see. I am currently active duty coming from recruiting back into my career field. Oh, wow. That's really cool. Would like to use this to build a program I'm currently wanting to apply to. That's awesome. Yeah. So this is, that's awesome. Very good. Well, so thank you for your service. I was a jarhead for 4 years. So thank you for what you're doing. I appreciate it. We're all shooting in the same direction and keeping the world safe. So thank you for your service. All right. Well, this is going to be about applying strategy. And there's just a couple things I wanted, again, as we're getting into this business growth multiplier, this is going to be about applying a strategic approach, right, to managing your life and your business. And I just want you to understand there's not going to be, this isn't going to be elements of this that are not going to be super granular, because this is about being a strategist versus being a tactician. Now, let me define what those things are before we get into that a little bit, because being a tactician means that you're good at very, very specific things. And like you might be good at lead generation, you might be good at marketing, you might be good at, at accounting or bookkeeping, whatever it is. Like you're very good at a very narrow specific things. And that's good. Like if you go narrow and deep, that's really good. The thing is, what a strategist does is it groups together the best tacticians to do the very best, and they all row in the same direction. That's what a strategist does. So what that means is we're going to have to take a top-down approach, because I don't want to hit you with a bunch of tactics that may not necessarily resound with you, right? It may not ring a bell with you. So for you, I just want to make sure that is that you understand the difference between a strategic approach and a tactical approach. We are going to talk about some granular tactical things. I just want to make sure that you understand that we are going to take a top-down approach so we can give the tactics context. Otherwise, it may not make sense. It may not make any sense in terms of what it is that we're trying to do. So just one quick thing I want to make a point about here is, let's see here. Okay. Yeah. One other quick thing I want to make a point here is that I get a lot of people who come, and many of you want to scale. You want to scale, you scale your businesses. You have ideas for businesses, and you're just thinking about, okay, I want to grow this business. I want to scale. There's just a couple of truths that I'm going to tell you right out of the gate. And first of all, you cannot scale a broken business model, and not all business models are scalable. And this is the problem, is that many people think that, let's say they start a business that has a very low barrier to entry. And what's a low barrier to entry business? It could be a marketing business. And there's a lot of people who literally today you can get in the marketing business. You know why? Because there's no barrier to entry for going into the marketing business. You can literally come up with a very pithy name and a really cool looking logo and be in the marketing business in the next hour. Okay. It's because there's a very low barrier to entry. Cleaning business has a very low barrier to entry. Wholesaling in the real estate world has a very low barrier to entry. So I'm just coaching. That's a perfect example, Michelle. There's a very, very low barrier to entry. There's no standardization across it. There's no legal structure around that, right? So this is why it's really important that you recognize that not every single business is going to be scalable. So for me, like, I'm starting to bring in other people who are coaches who are similar to me. Now, I don't really consider myself a coach. I'm a strategist, but I'm bringing on other people who are really good in their fields so they can offer different services. Now, is that all under the banner of Strategic Boardroom? No, not yet. And I'm not really even sure that that's the direction I want to go in. But the point is that if you are doing something where you are the deliverable, you're going to be constrained by capacity because you are only one person. Now, let me make this point. It doesn't mean that the business is not worth doing. So back in 2008, 2009, when the world was falling apart, I was offering, and I was in the real estate business, and I had $6.5 million worth of real estate, and everything was crashing down around me. And I turned that $6.5 million of real estate into $1.5 million in about 8 months. So for my next trick, I mean, it was horrible, right? I mean, I was flat on my back. I had so many things going wrong, and I was working like crazy. And the only thing that I could do to my fastest path to cash to start getting some cash flow in was either go get a job, or I was able to actually go out and offer a handyman service. Now I'm pretty handy. There's lots of things that I can fix. I'm not much of a carpenter, but I can fix things like refrigerators and stoves and washers and dryers and things like that, electrical, plumbing. I'm actually pretty handy with that sort of stuff. So I was able to do that, and I was able to charge anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 a day in revenue. Now, that was literally 12 to 14 hours a day. It was totally not scalable. It was totally not even sustainable. But I could do that for about a year until I got a toehold and was able to climb out of that. So I'm not saying that just because the business isn't scalable that it's not worth doing, but you have to recognize that that could be your lifeboat to take that money, to take that capital and go do something else with it. If you were to carve off 40% of those profits and put that into something else that could generate a return for you, now you can get into some other business that might be scalable. All right. So I just want to let you know that I'm not here to wet in your parade, not here to tell you that your business isn't worth doing. I just want you to understand the context and the capabilities of certain things. Right. So So who is this for? This is for specifically established business owners with employees. Now, it could be entrepreneurs who don't yet have a business, and that's okay, but you know that you're going to be bringing others on board. This is specifically not for solopreneurs or the one-man armies out there who want to stay that way. No disrespect if that's you, but if we're going to be talking about scaling and growing your business, and to do that quickly, you have to bring other people on board. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to hire people, right? That doesn't mean that you have to have employees. I'm just, but you do need to have other people, and that could be in the form of vendors. It could be in the form of affiliates. It could be any other thing, right? But it could be vendors, right? Now, I fought this for years, and I was very, very bottlenecked when I tried to do everything myself. And it's not that you can't do everything, but the reality is you can only do one thing at a time. And here's the issue is that many of you, in fact, most of you who I end up talking with on conversations are like, hey, what's it like to work together? I'm like, well, hold on, let's get in a conversation. You can't buy anything from me. You can't buy coaching from me on my website. It doesn't work that way. You know why? Because I want to make sure that you're going to get a good return for your investment, and I can do the things that you're asking me to do. So we get into a conversation, and with very, very rare exception, in fact, I can't even think of any exceptions, that everybody I talk to, I mean, they're really smart and they have a really good work ethic. The problem, though, is that they're really smart and they have a really good work ethic. Well, you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. How does that make sense? How is being smart and having a really good work ethic a problem? The problem is because you're often very smart, is you think that every problem that comes across your desk is a problem for you to solve. And that's a problem. And because you have a very good work ethic, you'll work like 4 or 5 or 15 or 20 hours working on that problem. And that's not even your problem to solve. So that's the problem, is where that intelligence and that work ethic, you have to apply discernment, because otherwise you are going to just keep working and you're never going to find someone else to do these low end tasks. So I'm just letting you know, I'm not saying that you can't do everything. And in the beginning, you do have to do darn near everything. But the reality is you're only going to be able to do one thing at a time. So if you're trying to grow and you're trying to scale, you have to think of this of who do I need, not how do I do it. Does that make sense? Please let me know if that makes sense. I want to stop and pause so you can type in, yes, this makes sense. I need to think about who I need to bring in, not necessarily how am I going to do it. That's a really critical piece if you're trying to grow and scale. So again, when you have others in your organization, you can now get multiple things done at a time. And that's how you start to scale. All right. Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it. Glad you could join us today. All right. Thank you, Drea. Thank you, Joni. Very good. All right. So bringing others into your business is what has the scaling effect on your business. Now, I just want to make this, we're going to talk a little bit more about this, about growing by addition versus growing by multiplication. And that's the types and quality of people that you bring in your organization. All right. And how you can actually control that quality, whether that's bringing in high quality people right out of the gate or you develop them over time. I chose to develop people over time. That's just an approach that I like. And I like it because I get to know people a little bit better. And I also feel like I have some not control, but some direction in terms of where they go. And if it stays in alignment with where they want to go, right? So that's important for me. So one quick thing I just want to make sure that we're understanding is that today you're going to be getting a lot of knowledge. And I just want you to think about this. Like, I don't want you to just audit the class, because they're seeking knowledge just to like understand. It's like, yeah, it's good knowledge, right? But it's actually, what's more important is seeking knowledge to actually take action on it. Because it's great to have knowledge. It's great to actually know some stuff for clarity, sure, but clarity doesn't do anything until you actually take action. So the seeking knowledge to understand is a much lower standard. I want you to think about taking knowledge in terms of what you can do, like what you plan on doing at the end of this, because otherwise, go ahead and log off now. This is not going to help you. It's not going to change anything for you unless you're planning on taking action. I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm just trying to speak plainly to you that other people won't say to you because they're like worried about them hopping off and not having the numbers that they want on their seminars. For me, I don't need that vanity metric. I'm being honest with you, because if you cared enough about me to show up on time and be here, then the least I can do is be honest with you. All right. So thank you, Jay. Appreciate that. Thank you, Malik. Okay. So let's go to the agenda for today. So first and foremost, we're going to be talking about the systems approach, right? There's certain systems that need to be in place with a business. Again, we're taking a top-down approach before we get to the actual scaling part of the business. Then we get to the psychology. So you have one side, which is the systems component of the business, and then you have the psychology side of the business. This will make sense when we get there. Then we get to the four core functions of business. And that is true in every business. I don't care what kind of business you've got, it's got to have all four of these functions. Next is the actual meat and potatoes about scaling, about what you can do to actually scale. And then we're going to talk about some resources at the very end. I don't have anything to sell you at the end of this session. So put away your credit cards. I know you're just dying to send me money. All kidding aside, there's nothing to buy. But there's a couple of free resources at the end that you're able to take advantage of. All right. So let's talk about a business approach. From a business approach, there is both a systems component and a psychology component. Systems and psychology. Let's first talk about the systems component. In the systems piece, now just want to let you know that this book is the Time Wealthy Advantage. That's this book back here, if you can see me on camera. That is my latest series of books around the Time Wealthy Advantage. It's specifically written for the small business avatar, and you're going to hear me reference avatar here in a bit, but specifically for the small business owner, generally married, has kids at home, super busy, just doesn't even know like what end is up. So I'm not here to sell the book. If you're out of the United States and you'd like to get a copy of the book, your best bets go to Amazon. If you are inside the United States and you would like a signed copy, you can go to strategicboardroom.com, and it's right on the main page. And I'll even throw in a coaching session. So if you're interested in that, but that's not what I'm here to mention. I just mentioned it because this framework around the Viper methodology is all written in this book. So you understand, like, well, is there any other resources around this? I just didn't want to be a jerk and not tell you about it. All right. So the Viper methodology, the Viper framework is an acronym. It's vision, infrastructure, process, execution, reporting. That's Viper. Now, I'm going to go through all of these, and I'm going to go through it rather quickly just because we're a little bit constrained on time with the volume of information I'm going to give you here. But this is the framework that I look at everything. Anytime I've been in any business, anytime I started out in a business, I've always poured it through this specific framework. So let's look at vision first and foremost. Vision has two components. And that is regarding personal vision and business vision. Let's talk about personal vision first. Personal vision is like, if you're going to say, well, what specifically do you want? Where do you want to go? Right? Jay, where do you want to go in life? Right? Like, Joni, if you woke up with $30 million or 30 million pounds tomorrow, where I'm not sure where you're from, but wherever you're from, if you woke up with $30 million or 30 million units of something that was a lot, right? What would your day-to-day life look like, right? If it wasn't defined by income generation. And then you look at the business vision and you say, cool, how are we going to get there? And all you do is you reverse engineer the business to exist to serve you. And many times when I ask business owners, especially when they come, they want to work with me for a while, they'll say, hey, I'll ask them, what is it you're trying to accomplish? And they almost always will answer in a business context. They'll say, well, I want 1,000 more sales or 100 more customers, or I want to sell 50,000 more units, or whatever it is. Great. That's a business vision. And when I ask them about a personal vision, many times they haven't thought that through at all. They use very vague phrases like, oh, I want generational wealth, air quotes. I want to create generational wealth, or I want to create financial independence, using air quotes here. And they never get any more specific than that. And I said, well, what do you want to do from a day to day? Well, whatever I want to do, right? And that's just letting you know, there's a lot of retired people who couldn't wait to retire. And guess what they do? After the first month of golfing, then they sit around for the next 8 months in their underwear watching television. And they're so unfulfilled, they want to go back to work. So I'm just saying, I don't want that for you. I want you to define a personal vision. So, and here's the problem is the danger in creating a business vision without ever giving any consideration to a personal vision is that you end up creating a life that exists to serve the business. Now, I know you're thinking, well, what does this have to do with the price of tomatoes? We're here to learn about scaling a business, right? Yes. But the point is, I don't want you to create a prison that you can never escape from. Ask me how I know. That was my life for several decades. And you're like, well, how old are you? I'm 53. And I'm like, I spent the better part of my 20s, 30s, and part of my 40s chasing this exact thing, having a business vision with no personal vision. And that's what I'm saying. The danger in creating a business vision without creating a personal vision is that you end up creating a life that exists to serve the business. And I don't want that for you. I don't want that for anybody. It's terrible because you end up creating a business that you can never get fired from, a business you can never quit. So real quick about around personal vision, one of the things I really like to do is create a 100th birthday speech. So a 100th birthday speech, I would want to say, there you are, you're turning 100 years old. Who would you want to be there? Who would you want to be in the room? What would you say to those people in the room? Right? What would you want others to say to you after you're done speaking? And what would be the message that you'd like them to carry outside the room when you were done speaking? For those of you who may think that a 100th birthday speech is a little bit too far removed from your life because you're like, dude, I'm 28, right? Like that's a way long ways away from now, right? Okay, well, fair enough. How about your next milestone birthday or a next milestone event for you, right? And it might not be your milestone, right? Let's say that you're 28 and you're like, well, 30 is only a couple years away, but maybe you've got a kid who's 6 years old. Well, when your kid turns 10, right? That's a pretty significant milestone, right? So think about the other milestones in your life or show up in your life and think about like those speeches that you could make. Again, what would you say? What would you want other people to say about that speech, and what would be the message that you would want people to carry on? It's really, really important. This is something called future self continuity. This is a psychological term called future self continuity. That means how connected are you, or how disconnected? It's future self discontinuity. If you're disconnected, how connected are you to your future self? And many researchers have found that when we start thinking about our future selves, the same portion of our brain lights up as those when we're thinking of a stranger, of those we're thinking of like an actor that we literally don't know except for watching them on screen. Interesting. So that's what I'm saying. What I want you to do by having future that future vision of your 100th birthday or your 50th birthday or whatever, you're starting to connect your future self to your current self. It's a really important really important thing. So again, hopefully that does resonate with you. All right, so let's get to business vision. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of what we're talking about today. The business vision specifically. Now, pay attention to this next portion around the 3 C's of business vision, because this is going to be foundational for the rest of the session today. Because the 3 C's of business vision, if you gloss over this, you're not going to be able to scale, and it's going to be very fragmented, especially when it comes to your marketing, because you're going to need marketing, you're going to need promotion if you want to grow. If you're trying to grow, you're trying to scale, you have to have these 3 C's dialed in. This is foundational. It's just, you can't get around it. So the 3 C's of business vision are core purpose, core values, and client avatar. Core purpose, core values, client avatar. Let's look at core purpose. Core purpose is, what business are you in specifically? So Carlos, what business are you in specifically? Michelle, what business are you in specifically? Right? Jay, what business are you in specifically? Right? Joni, same thing, right? And specifically, right? Drea, what problems do you solve? And I'm using the word specific over and over. Hopefully you're getting the point. You've got to be specific, because if you're not specific, if you're super vague, like you start, well, we do a little bit of everything. We're one-stop shop. I'm telling you, you're going to struggle. Not saying you can't do that eventually. There's lots of large companies who are able to fragment and departmentalize different aspects of what they do for a certain avatar. But your best bet is to serve a very specific niche and grow that niche and be known in that niche, for that's the thing that you do. What business are you in specifically, and what problems do you solve? And be a little obnoxious about what you won't do. And that's important, because once you find those niches, there's so many niches out there that let's face it, like, well, there's only maybe 1,000 people in that niche. Okay, but trust me, if it's a big enough problem and that 1,000 people, you might only need a tenth of that to really make some good money, make a good impact on them, their life, and on yours. So think about that in terms of core purpose. In terms of core values, I want you to think about what matters to you about this business, and how would the world be worse off if you were no longer in business? If you went out of business, who would suffer because you weren't there to provide your product or service? That's really important. And the reason why, and you're thinking, oh gosh, this is so squishy and weird. No, it's super important, because if you don't define your company core values, they're going to get defined for you. And guess who's going to define them? By the strongest personality who's in the room. And if that's not always you, guess what? It's going to be defined by the strongest personality in the room. And I don't know about you, but I don't want that being left up to chance. And the reason why is because core values is what helps define company culture. And company culture is what dictates company brand. And the brand is what is what the world knows. The brand is what the world sees. Think of companies that have a very strong brand. Think of like Southwest Airlines. Think of like Amazon. Think of Starbucks. They have a very strong brand. Google has a very strong brand. Think about how that brand came about. It didn't just happen by accident. They were very intentional about building their company core values, and those company core values became their company culture, and the company culture is what directs the company brand. And that's how it's personified. That's how the world sees the brand. So when you have a very strong brand, that almost becomes its own kind of marketing. It's really important. So don't gloss over this and just say, oh, it's kind of squishy. It is squishy. I'm letting you know it's squishy. But the reason, it doesn't make it unimportant. So we talked about core purpose, we talked about core values. Now let's talk about client avatar. The client avatar is who specifically and ideally do you want to serve, right? And again, get really specific about this. Come up with a name with them, for them. Think about their geographics, their demographics, their psychographics. When you think about their geographics, this is straightforward, right? Their geographics is, where they are. Their demographics is who they are, and their psychographics is how psycho they are, right? No, just kidding. Their psychographics is how they think. So geographics is where they are, demographics is who they are, psychographics is how they think, how they make buying decisions. And when you're starting to think about those, I want you to stop and think about the acronym ALIA, ALIA. Okay, very good. To get specific, Michelle, thank you. All right, so this is super important. When you're thinking about ALIA, you're thinking about their attitudes, their lifestyles, their interests, and their aspirations and their goals. So think about their attitudes. What are their attitudes on certain things? What is their lifestyle like? Are they single? Right? Do they live a jet setting lifestyle? Right? Like are they up all night and sleep all day? Like what's their lifestyle like? Think of their interests. You can reach a lot of people because of their interests. I'm not here to offend anybody, but I'm a Christian and I'm a gun guy. I can align with people who have that interest. And if they're not, that's okay. I'm not saying that anything wrong with them, but I generally attract people who are gun owners, right? They get that, right? We just have a common language that we can speak about, right? For maybe yours are race car people. Maybe they're American football. Maybe they're European football, right? Whatever it is, what are their interests and what are their interests and what do they like being a part of, right? This is something known as affinity marketing or affiliation marketing, right? Or association marketing, right? Where you're associating yourself or you have a similar affinity for things. Okay. This is really, really important. They're all different things, by the way, that I just mentioned, but beyond the scope of today, that's in marketing magic. That's a different seminar, but I'm just letting you know, this is stuff that we end up talking about around the psychographics. So take the time to get really specific on these three areas: your core purpose, your core values, and your client avatar. All right. That's vision. That's personal vision. That's business vision. We're going to put the fries in the bag on vision. All right. So let's talk infrastructure next. Infrastructure is the bones of the business. It is the things like the desks and the chairs and the software and the websites, right? Just different things that you're going to have that need to operate your processes on. Because if you don't take the time to think about this, like it might be CRM, right? Your customer resource management software. Like this is the sales software. It could be how you process credit cards, everything like that around infrastructure. And you might think, well, why didn't we think about infrastructure first? Because the thing is, if you don't think about vision first, you're going to create an infrastructure. Let's say, for argument's sake, that Carlos, that you want to lay on the beach in Spain for 2 months out of the year, rubbing cocoa butter on your belly, right? It's fine vision. Here's the problem, though. If that's your vision, if that's your personal vision, and you create an infrastructure where you have to return emails and phone calls in a timely manner, that's going to be a horrible experience for you when you're trying to lay on the beach in Spain, rubbing cocoa butter on your belly, right? So that's why we're going to design an infrastructure that's in alignment with our vision. Now, again, it's fragmented, right? And you might not be able to do all of it all at once, but that's why I'm saying you have to start thinking about that now, so you have that infrastructure that's aligning with your vision for the future. So that's the infrastructure. So we talked about vision, we talked about infrastructure. Let's look at process. Process is simply how you do stuff. Okay, there's two components to process. There is tactical and there is strategic. Let's talk first about tactical. When you're considering tactical, this is just basically how you do stuff. This is not complex. This is your standard operating procedures. This is like the stuff that you like your job descriptions, but it's like, okay, but what are you doing from day to day, from moment to moment, right? It's your checklist items. It's your day-to-day activities, right? This is the stuff that you basically, if you hire someone, you should have them creating the process for you. This isn't something that you specifically should be doing yourself. You should have them doing it. Why? Because when they leave, not if, but when, or they get promoted, you have to bring someone else in. You're not now recreating the job. You've already had them do it for you. Make sense? Especially if you have a virtual assistant doing this. Have your virtual assistant delineate what it is that they do, send you an email at the end of each day of what they accomplished, and that starts to become the foundations of an SOP, or your day-to-day activity checklist. So hopefully that makes sense for you. So that's your tactical day-to-day stuff. Now I want to make a quick point here. So I'm just going to, you see the Viper methodology back up here. I'm going to draw a box around infrastructure and tactical process. That's the system. That's the actual part of the business system that encompasses everything, right? So for those of you who are my systems people, my systems and processes, that's it, right? It's around infrastructure and it's around tactical process. When you're looking at the other side of process, on the other hand, let's look at strategic. Strategic comes down to strategic planning. Strategic planning is really important because let's say you built this process, right? The process you got the system, and that system is like a warship. It's like a battleship, right? But you want to take that battleship out of the harbor, right? You want to go make some trouble, right? You don't want to just do laps around the bay. You want to take it out of the harbor and go do stuff, right? This is what strategic planning does. And to break it down into very simple terms, you need three elements to strategic planning, which is around people, purpose, and promotion. People, purpose, and promotion. Remember earlier when I was talking about you need who? You should be thinking about who you need, not how should I do it. That's the people that you need. So when you're starting to think about the people that you might need to help execute your strategic plan, these are the people that you need to start thinking about. You might say, well, I really need a marketing person and I don't know the first thing about marketing. Okay, maybe you need to hire a marketing company. Maybe you need someone to help educate you on marketing. So you hire a guy like me to help, as a strategist to help teach you about marketing stuff so that when you hire a marketing company, you know what you're looking for. Because otherwise, marketing companies are just really, really convincing because they're really good at selling themselves, but not necessarily super good about performing. Right. So you start thinking about the people that you need in your corner. It's like you're developing this board of advisors, right? This advisory board in terms of how to help you get to where you want to go. That's strategic. That's the people component of strategic planning. Let's look at purpose. When you're coming up with your strategic purpose, it should be in alignment with your core purpose. Where have you heard core purpose before? Hint, you heard it in your business vision. Where have you heard core purpose before? It would make my heart really happy if someone typed that. Where have you heard core purpose before? Right? You've heard it in your business vision. Okay. So if you've heard core purpose, right? This is why your strategic purpose has to be in alignment with your core purpose. And why does that matter? Right? There you go, Jay. Oh my gosh, you made my heart so happy. If I knew where you live, I would deliver a gold sticker to your house. So this is why I'm saying, like, for your core purpose and your strategic purpose have to be in alignment. You know why? Because if your core purpose is like, say, like Starbucks, which is like selling coffee, right? And coffee drinks. If I started selling chainsaws out of Starbucks, they'd be like, wait, what? Everyone's going to get confused. All of the people, the customers, the workers, the management, the leadership, everyone's going to be confused. Wait, why are we selling chainsaws? Right? Well, we can make money at it, right? But that's a horrible reason to do it, right? You want to do it because you can expand market share or serve your customers better or whatever, right? But the strategic purpose might be to launch a new product or service. It might be to go into a new market entirely or to vertically integrate into a new market, right? So that's why I'm saying, like, that would be like if Starbucks bought some coffee fields in Colombia, right? That would be vertically integrating, right? So I'm just saying, like, thinking about this, where that might be, where the strategic purpose, you've got to make sure that you're clear about what that is. Like, what is it you're trying to do? And you get really clear about it. And that's when you start to establish timelines and things like that, right? So that's when you get to promotion. Sorry, my nose started running all of a sudden. So we talked people, we talked purpose, now we talk promotion. Promotion is just communicating either outbound. You're going to promote this strategic plan outbound in your marketing, in your advertising, in your lead gen, in your networking, in your affiliate marketing, whatever, right? Or you're going to and you're also going to promote it internally. You have to promote it to your staff. You have to promote it to your management. You have to promote it to other aspects of your leadership. You have to promote it to your vendors and let them know, right? So it's not just promoting it outbound, you also have to promote it inbound. And this is why it's so important. Like, think about like Walmart greeters. Does everybody know what a Walmart greeter is? You ever been to Walmart? You walk in, there's a guy that greets you there, right? Well, did you know that Sam Walton came up with that idea 2 years before the Walmart greeter ever actually became a position? Sam Walton was the owner of the company, and he had to promote it over and over and over and over. And finally, like, management or the other leadership was like, Sam isn't letting this go. We need to start putting some greeters up front. And he got the idea from another company that saw that he saw doing it, right? So he just borrowed, he adapted, and he made it work, right? And as a result, the Walmart greeter was born. So I'm just saying, like, you got to promote this a lot. And even if you're the CEO of the company, you're going to have to you're going to have to repeat yourself a lot. Okay. So that's promotion. So that is process. We talk tactical, we talk strategic. Let's go to execution. Execution is part of the Viper methodology because most things fall apart in execution. You can have the best plan and things will still fall apart, right? And this is one of my favorite quotes from General George S. Patton: "A good plan violently executed now is better than the perfect plan next week." Don't wait for things to be perfect, right? Perfection is the enemy of done. Just good enough is good enough, right? And again, most plans do fall apart in their execution. That's why you have to delineate the very specific things that you're going to do. Otherwise, it's like, well, we're just going to try real hard. What does that mean? Like, you need to be really specific in terms of what your execution actually is going to be. So this is where oftentimes I see that many people are establishing way too many priorities. Well, we've got a list of 37 priorities, or we got a list of 71 to-do items today, right? If I had 3 hands, they'd all be up, right? Think about that. Who has that list of 71 items that they're going to do today? Yeah, it's very common, especially among entrepreneurs, especially among busy small business owners. And here's the problem: is having too many priorities has the same effect as having none. So this is why I encourage people to establish a daily 5. Yeah, thank you, Bridget. Yeah, it's awful. It's hard to not do it, especially because we've got this fear of missing out, that FOMO, and then we're worried about missing out on things. So it's like, oh, well, we got to do all this stuff. And I will tell you that when I am really dialed in, I get a lot of things done, but usually only a couple of things, but in a very narrow area. But I get a lot done in each of those narrow areas. So again, prior to hopping on this call today, I sent out, I think, just shy of 40 emails, right? Specifically to people like you, like people who had signed up for Eventbrite stuff in the past, sent out emails, say, hey, how's it going? I said that you're in there. You're like, right. And part of the emails, the reason I was sending those out, and you may or may not get the email because I may move on from this, but right now I'm like, would people be interested if I came up with specifically a strategic planning session? This isn't strategic planning. Strategic planning is around a 36-month, 12-month, 90-day project, monthly, weekly, and daily 5 construct. So if you would be interested in something like that, let me know, right? I'm probably going to do that. I'm probably going to do that sometime in the end of next week, or maybe as early as the end of this week, but I got to put it together yet, right? So I'm just saying, hey, if I get enough interest, yeah, I will put it together, right? Jay says, yes, definitely be interested. And yes, FOMO. Yeah, you're missing out. All right. Bridget, you would? Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you. So here's the thing. So again, what we're trying to do is establish a daily 5. And the daily 5 is, what that means is it's up to say it with me, up to, not to exceed, but up to 5 highly specific actions that you can take. Yes, me 3. Okay, Drea. It's funny because our 3-year-old says me 3, and then we go me 4, me 5, me 17. Like, it's actually a big thing. It's kind of funny you said that. All right. So, but it's up to 5 highly specific actions that you can take, which will move the needle towards your vision or your strategic plan, either one. So that's what I'm saying, up to 5. For me, 3 is the sweet spot. I like 3 items, up to 3 items. If I get to daily 5, it's not sustainable for me. It's almost like it's too much. I end up working too much. But for me, 3 works best, but up to 5 needle moving activities. I'm not talking like check email, right? That's like brush teeth, right? You've got to be really, really specific about what the needle moving activities are. If you're trying to grow and scale your business, generally it's going to be around marketing activities. All right. We got you, Jay, Bridget, and Drea. Yes, absolutely. And so we'll put that out there and we'll show you how to actually keep an eye out for it when we do put that together. So the last piece here is reporting. Now, reporting function is around lead metrics and lag metrics. Lead metrics is just basically your actions and activities, and your lag metrics is the results of those actions and activities. And this is it's pretty straightforward. Like, what do we have control over? We have control over our actions and activities. We don't have control over the lag metrics. We don't have control. I didn't have any control over who showed up today. I don't remember exactly how many people signed up for this, maybe 30 or 40. And usually I got 25 to 30% show up. I don't have any control over the 25 or 30% who show up. I don't have control over if anybody shows up. That's a lag metric, right? So I'm just saying, like, but I can control my actions. I can control how much I promote the events and how many different events I put together and things like that. Okay. So I just want to let you know, like, these are the sorts of things that I put that you want to measure, is both your lead metrics and your lag metrics for your reporting functions. So that is the systems component. Let's look at the psychology component. The psychology, the truth is systems are only going to get you so far. Right? They are important, but they are limited, and they're limited because, I mean, first and foremost, they're important because they offer stability, they offer consistency, they offer accountability, right? Those are important, but they're limited because in making subjective decisions is a limitation of a system, right? They're very objective, which is great, but subjective decisions, not so much. Adapting to market changes, especially rapid market changes, coming up with really creative solutions is really not a strength of a system. And it's also about maintaining and establishing, or even establishing and maintaining human connections. AI is good. It's a good tool in the toolbox. But at the end of the day, like, I'm having individual conversation with you, through the chat. It was funny. I don't know if anybody was on that call, but it was a call. I think it was, I don't remember which one it was. I did like 7 or 8 last week. And there was someone like, hey, say like brown tomato if this is not a replay. I was like, what? It was some weird thing. Oh, tchotchke, that was the word. Say tchotchke if you're not an AI, or you're not they thought it was a recording. I was like, really? Have you been paying attention for the last 10 minutes? It was just kind of funny. It was, Bridget, I literally laughed. I was like, are you a bot? Like, why would you say that? Anyway, anybody who watches me for more than a few minutes knows that I'm like really here. That's just weird. Anyway, so we talked about again, what we're going to talk about more specifically right now is the psychology, right? We looking at from a personal and individual perspective to a business and organizational perspective. And when you're looking at your personal psychology, those are things around self-worth, your self-management, limiting beliefs, all the head trash, right? That we all individually carry around, right? And the personal psychology is really, really important. And you're AI too. we're all just AI talking to AI, right? We're all in one giant matrix. But this is really important because, the individual psychology does matter. It absolutely does matter, because especially if you're like a type of a boss or a type of a leader that can't let things go, can't let their ego get out of the way. We've all worked for people like that. Sometimes we are those people and we know we should be doing better. But this is why personal psychology is so important. But it also, from a psychology perspective, there's the organizational psychology. And when you're looking at business psychology, it's around external and internal factors. Those external and internal factors, the external factors are specifically related to like buying psychology and even negotiations with vendors. And sometimes even politics plays a role in external business psychology. When you're looking at internal, you're looking at management, you're looking at leadership. And, someone even made a comment about internal politics. And I was like, yeah, you're not wrong, right? I mean, especially if you have weak leadership, office politics can be brutal. So these are the sorts of things that you look at. And when you're looking at leadership, I'm just going to make this quick point about leadership. I have a 3 pillars model of leadership, and I do have plans to put something together around this, because my next book is called Leader Boss, and it's about individual business owners who struggle with being a good leader, right? And because sometimes they're just they're too nice or whatever. But I'll talk about that here in a second. But it comes down to trust, vision, and communication. You have to have all 3 components of this, because if you don't have all 3 components on this, look, you can have all you're just going to struggle, because again, if people don't trust you, they're not going to follow you. If you're not clear on your vision, they may trust you. You may think you're a great speaker, but they don't know what direction you're going in. Or if you can't communicate well, yeah, they may trust you. They may know where you're going, but if you can't communicate that, you can't articulate that, you're not going to be as effective as a leader. So you might be thinking, well, does leadership really matter that much? It absolutely does matter, because the reason why leadership matters to me as I'm in the process of writing Leader Boss, it's the boss who struggles between caring and candor. Many people that come to work with me, they are nice people. They're good guys. They're good gals. They are likable people. They come with a lot of caring, and they often say, "Yeah, Mark, I'm too nice. I'm too nice." And what happens when they're too nice? People walk all over them. That is true. That is true, because you have too much caring and not enough candor. It must be balanced. In my mind, caring and candor must be balanced, because if you bring out too much candor, you're just like, hey, man, I'm just going to be rude to you. Like, you just need to hear it, right? I don't care whose feelings get hurt, right? Like, that's too much candor. And when you bring too much candor, then you're going to become known as a tyrant, and people are just going to do the bare minimum. If they don't feel like you care about them, they're not going to tell you anything that they see as wrong. They're certainly not going to be open and honest about any feedback or any ideas that they may want to share with you. And that's not good either. So you got to have equally balance between caring and candor, right? And because you care about them, you also owe it to them to have candor, to tell them the way things are, right? What you tell them when they're struggling, tell them when they're failing, and throw an arm around them and say, hey, look, I just got to be honest with you. I'm not happy with the way things are going, but let's figure out a way to go from here. Right. There was a young girl who worked with me really quick for a short period of time as an intern. And she took something small out of the office. It was not a big deal to me. In fact, I didn't even want to say anything. But the next day when she came in, I said, hey, I got to tell you something. I said, I like you, but you stole from me. And she looked at me. I said, you left here yesterday with that small thing. I'm not even going to mention it. But she goes, oh. And you could see that she was like upset about it. I said, listen, doesn't go outside this room. No one needs to know. I'm just letting you know you could be let go for something like that. And I have to tell you this, because if I don't tell you this now, when you go work somewhere else, they can be mean girl to you. And that is not what she needed. She needed someone to have candor with her, right? So she appreciated it. I said, we good? We never need to bring it up again. She goes, nope, we're good. And it never became a thing. Worked for about a month altogether, and it was wonderful. We had a wonderful experience, right? And I really think that she appreciated the fact that I brought that candor to her, right? So this is tough. These are the sorts of tough conversations you need to have. And I just preceded it like, hey, we have to have a tough conversation, right? And she really appreciated it. And we never brought it up again. It was never an issue. And that was just the way it was. So let's talk about being a level 5 leader. Level 5 leaders, this is something that was defined by Jim Collins, who wrote Good to Great, Great by Choice, Built to Last, wrote a whole bunch of books, really, really good. Love that story. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough to have that conversation with her. But level 5 leader companies, they are significantly more profitable. This is something that Jim Collins noticed with these companies that had really, really solid leadership. They're more profitable. They grew much faster. They had a much stronger company culture, and also well-defined core values. There it is again, right? That second C of your 3 C's of business vision: core purpose, core values, client avatar, core values. Here it is again, right? So this is what I'm saying. Like, this is leadership. This is what your role and responsibility of leadership is. Management is about managing differences. Leadership is about unification and unity behind a common message. And and establishing the priorities, right? Those are the different roles between management and leadership. So I love this chart here. This was something that was put in the book Great by Choice by Jim Collins and Morton Hansen. These 4 companies here, Amgen, Intel, Microsoft, and Southwest, if you look at the returns tracked over 30 years, they grew 24 times larger, or 24 times more than the market. And 77 more times than the entire Amgen is in tech. Intel, same thing, 20 and 46. Microsoft, 56 and 119. Southwest Airlines, right? 63 times more than the market and 550 times more than the airline industry. So just interesting how all these things really make a difference. And the 100 best places to work, which is definitely a function of leadership, the 100 best places to work list frequently represents the highest stock returns overall. So leadership does make a huge difference. And because growth requires change, leadership is what manages that change. And for those of you who are on here about being strategic, again, this is a strategic business growth multiplier. This is the class that you signed up for. I'm telling you, this is being strategic. This is about you thinking about your systems. This is about you thinking about your leadership and your psychology and all the things that you need so that all the strategy can boil down into individual tactics so you can grow and create a pretty cool organization, not just for you, but what it can do for others. And that's a pretty cool thing. So I really am dialing into servant leadership. And I think that's really the great way to go. One of the very best books that I have read on the subject around servant leadership is Leadership by the Good Book. And it's biblical based. I'm not trying to slide one in on you. The author, he's a billionaire, and this guy, David Stewart, and he is the wealthiest African American in the United States. He is worth about $12 billion, and he's got a pretty cool story. He wrote a book back in 2004 called Doing Business by the Good Book, and then subsequently wrote another book, I think in 2022 maybe. And that was Leadership by the Good Book. Great guy. I really, really like his. And then he just talks over and over again about servant leadership, about how being a servant leadership really just works for him and his entire, just the way he lives his life. But the whole point of this is like, how do I get my people to care about as much as I do? I hear that question all the time. Like, I feel I should be further along in my business. It comes down to leadership, right? Don't forget this one last point around leadership is the speed of the leader is the speed of the team. The team cannot outpace the leader. If you're taking too long to make decisions, if you're taking too long to hire, fire, let go, change things, alter things, whatever it is, you're responsible for the change in your organization, and the change will only go as fast as you, the leader, will allow it to change. So keep that in mind. So this is the business approach we looked at. We looked at systems, we looked at psychology. Now let's look at the 4 core functions of business. The 4 core functions of business specifically are lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting. And your company's your client's journey in your company happens in that order. First lead gen, then sales, then operations, then accounting. And it's really important that you recognize that, because when you're starting to scale, you're looking at lead generation around targeting your client avatar. Where have you heard client avatar before? Where have you heard client avatar before? As I sip my tea loudly. Where have you heard it? I hope that wasn't too loud. That sounded really loud in my headphones. Where have you heard client avatar before, right? You've heard it. So we talked about the 3 C's, right? Which is from where? Come on, guys. You know this, right? We talked about, there we go, 3 C's. Thank you, Michelle. Core purpose, core values, and client avatar. Business vision, right? You turn it from your business vision. So this is important. So this is where it starts to come back around. So when you know your client avatar, you know exactly who you want to work with. It's much easier for you to direct your marketing towards them. And these are the people that tend to come to you, bring the most amount of money and bring the least amount of drama. All right. So the 4 core functions, again, I'm going to put this up here. I'm going to give you this as some homework for you to consider. But let me take myself completely off. So when you take a screenshot of this, the 15 reasons why people buy, this is the psychology. This is the understanding buying psychology. People are going to want to come to you, and they're going to want to work with you because you help them either make money or save time, avoid effort, escape pain, right? They'll buy from you because they want more comfort. They want better health. They want to feel more love, gain praise, increase their status. They'll buy for truth. especially if they have felt lied to in the past. They'll buy for growth. They'll buy for novelty. They'll buy for more control, right? Or more perceived control, right? Or more certainty. And they'll certainly buy to be in contribution to others. So I want you to think about this, right? Think of all the ways, directly and indirectly, that your product or service helps them make money. Think of all the ways, directly and indirectly, you help them save money, or directly or indirectly save time, or directly or indirectly avoid effort, make things easy, right? The reason why is because when you come up with multiple reasons, and you should come up with multiple reasons under each of these 15 categories. So when you have, say, 10 under each category, right, and you've got 150 reasons why people are going to want to buy from you, and some of those reasons might be a little wonky, right? But directly or indirectly, how do you help people with more comfort or have better health, less stress in their life? That's better health for sure, right? But this is why this will help you understand the buying psychology of the people who want to work with you. And this is a really good exercise. Please take the time to go through the 15 reasons why people will buy and why they're going to want to buy from you for each of these 15 reasons, right? Some of them are going to be more logical, right? But don't just gloss over because you're like, well, that doesn't apply to me, right? Figure out a way how it could apply to you. And that's when you're going to get to know your avatar really, really well. So think about this in terms of lead generation, everything. If you're trying to scale your business, if you're trying to grow your business, everything needs to support your lead generation function. And the reason being is because you can have the best, most efficient business. You can be a paragon of virtue. You can have your sales techniques so dialed in, you could sell voting booths to Castro and ice to Eskimos, and you can still starve. Trust and know that, right? Getting the deep why. That's right. That's right, Drea. Like you have to know your people. And the thing is, because your lead generation is so important, if you take your foot off the gas, you can never take your foot off the gas when it comes to lead generation. You just can't. And the lead generation activities, specifically like your marketing activities, and I'm talking about, like, I sent out 40 separate emails today. I'm not talking about like an email, like an email engine. I'm not talking like MailChimp. I'm not talking like anything like that. I'm talking like I typed out 40 different emails today, right? Like specifically, like I was sending out different emails. And why was that important? Because I really wanted to know, like, hey, I'm putting this thing together. Would you be interested? Now, some people think it's spam. They're not going to respond back. They think I'm trying to sell them something. I didn't even ask them to buy anything, right? It was just a question, right? Two or three lines, right? But your lead generation activities have to take up about 60 to 70% of your time. Just 60, 70% of your activities need to be around specific lead generation activities. And right now I'm hosting a 12-week challenge. We just got started on Saturday with people around lead generation. It's 12 weeks specifically around lead generation activities for people who wanted to buy, who wanted to get into, understanding marketing, specifically as we're wrapping up the fourth quarter and we're heading into the first quarter of next year really soon, within the next 6 weeks. It's coming. We're here. We're there. Like, the first quarter is already on us. So this is what I'm saying. Like, so 10 hours out of a 10-hour work hour or 10-hour work day, 6 to 7 hours are devoted minimum to your lead generation activities. So let's look at sales. Sales just continues on the conversation started by your lead generation. And it also understands that effective selling is not about holding people's heads underwater until they say yes. It's about finding solutions. And that's the really critical piece, right? So again, but if you have enough leads, your sales process could be marginal. It could be okay. If you have enough leads, it may not matter. I mean, I would still tell you to dial in your sales process. But I'm just saying, like, you can be not that great in sales and have plenty of leads and still do pretty well. So this is the thing when you're coming to the operational function. If you're going to get stuck, this is generally where you get stuck, right? You get stuck being a baker, in the operational function. You get stuck being a roofer. You get stuck being a web designer, these sorts of things, okay? If you're going to ignore something, generally you're going to ignore the accounting function. And it generally goes something like this. Well, I've got more money in my bank account this month than last month. I must be doing okay, right? So I'm just letting you know this is how it happens. So again, you just got to be mindful, and again, I've said those sorts of things. I have a degree in accounting. So I'm just saying, like, even though right now I'm in a PhD program for organizational psychology, it's a very different field for me. I have a bachelor's degree in accounting, and I have said those words, right? Like, it's the same thing, right? Yeah, exactly, Jay. Like, we are not like, I am the least qualified person to do my books in my business because I know I won't do them, right? So think about this, like, are all these things the same skill set? Lead generation, sales, operations, accounting? No, of course they're not the same skill set. That's why we need people. That's why we need people that are not us. All right. And when you're hiring people, when you're bringing people in your organization, you're bringing people who are in alignment with your core values. So I just want to make, there's a last couple of points here, and then we're going to put the fries in the bag. But here's the thing I want you to think about here is growing by addition versus growing by multiplication. And this is where you start to bring or develop leaders or people who have the capability for leadership into your organization. When you bring in let's say that you hire a VA, nothing wrong with VAs. I have actually quite a bit of VA. I've worked with quite a few VAs. I don't have any right now, but I've worked with quite a few VAs. And when I hire a VA, that VA does a job, right? They do the one thing and they're good. They're good at it. But that is bringing in a sole person who does a sole job, right? But when I hire a leader, when I hire someone else who brings other people with them, now I'm growing by multiplication, especially if I'm hiring other leaders, especially if I'm hiring other people who have an established tribe or are natural leaders, because now I'm getting the benefits of all of them, of all of the people in their circle. And that's how you grow by multiplication. So I just want you to think about this, that if you are trying to grow, which everybody here is wanting, again, this is the strategic business growth multiplier. You got to have the right systems in place and continually work on those systems. Work on them like a Sudoku puzzle. Don't feel like you have to have them all figured out up front. You have to have great leadership, right? Understanding business psychology from a personal perspective, great individual psychology, great individual leadership, and also great organizational psychology and great organizational leadership. Your lead generation activities, 60 to 70% minimum. I mean, there's just no getting around that. And that's if you have someone else that you can hire that can help you with that, then that's something else that you can maybe consider to help them out. But your lead generation activities have to be the far and away the biggest part of your day. And then again, you have to hire and develop and bring in leaders into your organization, not just workers. Workers are important, but you can grow by addition and you can grow by multiplication, and that's important. All right, so we talked about that. I just want to give you a couple of resources, and then we're going to be done here. Again, this is the challenge that I laid at you in the beginning, is just seeking knowledge just to understand versus knowledge that you can take action on. So I'm not exactly sure what you can take action from. Maybe you just didn't find, maybe you're like, yeah, it was good, I didn't really get anything from it. Okay, I respect that. But if you did, right, and if you did get anything from this, what are you specifically going to act on? This is going to be important, right? This is going to be really, really important for you to think about. We're going to wrap up the video here, but I just want you to think about this, about what specifically you're going to take action on today or tomorrow, but soon, within the next 24 hours. And this is, again, there's plenty of information out there, but not enough transformation. There's not a lack of information. There's a lack of transformation. There's a lack of integration. So what are you going to do to change things? So one thing I do want to offer you is, if you are a Facebook type of person, if you would like to join us on Facebook, we don't post a ton. We post about every day, but we don't blow you up on Facebook. If you'd like to go to go to this site, we're going to go ahead. Do you have that put up there? Yep. Thank you, Michelle. So if you want to go to that website there, it is the Facebook page, and for the Time Wealthy Advantage, we put some different stuff on there from time to time, and we can stay in touch that way if you'd like. But that is all that I have. I do appreciate you guys. Thank you, Michelle. She got some fancy arrows up there. That is, you sold us we will have access to this video, right? Yes. Yes, Marcos. So what we're going to do is we're going to send you a link. We're going to upload this video to YouTube, and you will have access to this video on YouTube, and we're going to email you the link. If you'd like to go to YouTube and check out what's there already, you're welcome to. But it's at Mark Dolfini is the handle. So, but you can find it once we send it to you. We'll probably get it out to you the next day or so. All right. Very good. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for sticking around. Man, you guys were a solid bunch today. There was like very little wavering back and forth all the entire time. So I'm glad you guys found some value in this today, and I look forward to connecting with you guys in the future. Have a great day. We'll see you guys next time.